G'day, welcome back. I'd especially like to welcome my new subscribers, and I hope you enjoy the content of my channel. If you missed part 2 of the spin index build, there's a link up there now. Go watch that first, then come back and watch this one. Just small apology, I was hoping to keep this down to 2 parts, but you know, like everything I do lately, it seems to be blowing out because I don't spend much time out here anymore, just to try and keep the noise down a bit, keep the neighbours happy. So follow me over to the mill over there, and we'll get on with it. Alrighty, decided to have a clean up here this morning before I got started. 2 hours it took me to put all the tools away and to clean up all the damn swarf that was from one end of this place to the other, after about 6.5 weeks of making stuff. Alrighty, so that's the bit to mount the main body on. Need to clean it up, and then we'll cut a thing in the side of it when we're done. Haven't got the usual shit hot finishes that I've been getting because that's a 0.4 radius tip. I'm just about out of the 0.2s. I'll have to order some more of them, but they're cheap, so it doesn't matter, I can get through them. Alrighty, I had to knock, I didn't have to, I wanted to, knock 9mm off the end of this, and rather than turn it into a whole stack of swarf, I decided to take it over the saw and cut it off. And in the process, gain a spacer for this end so I can hang that out this end a bit and do what I want to do next. Alrighty, so I've got to find the centre of this thing. Oh, that'll be right. Bloody battery's flat. Just as well I keep some spares. Oh, that's better. Not flashing at me now. Alrighty, so that main body is not 70mm, it's 69.8, so we need to move back 34.9mm away from that edge. That's the wrong bloody edge, idiot. Yeah, wrong way round. That's in the wrong way. I'm going to go and get myself iced coffee and I'll come back and redo this. Alrighty, I don't know whether you can really see what I'm going to do there or not, I hope you can. Alrighty, glad I went down the road to do that, because it suddenly occurred to me that I would have to cut the end off this tool, or when it was coming around as I went down through here to start hitting on the top of that. So didn't really want to do that, but I have the same tool in the lathe, and if I have to, I'll just swap them over if I need a longer one, because I don't need a big long one in the lathe. Alrighty, so what I've done is I've re-zeroed that edge after I stood it up the right way and moved this out to 34.9mm and then touched the tool off on here. So from now on it is all X travel to cut down through here, and Z travel. So let's go in there 2mm. No, not that way. 2mm. Let's go in there 0.3 and see how we go. Well, I don't know if you can see that, but that cut is not even all the way down. It's wider at the top than it is at the bottom, which means it's leaning out this way. And that's what the square's telling me as well. I didn't check it with the square when I put it in there. It's going to mess my zero up with another cut and see what happens. Well, that's a lot better. That one's pretty even now. Alright, one final little clean-up pass, I think. It's not the best of finishes, but it doesn't need to be. Beautiful. Well, I'll just move this camera and light around this side a bit more, you can see it better. Alrighty. Fits in there pretty bloody well really. So clamp them together and weld them up, but not right now because I want to drill the 3 holes either end in here in the lathe before I go welding that on. Alrighty, yeah, I've got these screws that I wanted, or at least the only ones I could get. I wanted M3, so I only got M4s. But anyway, time to do something about drilling, tapping some holes and then getting this thing in the lathe and boring these out to the right size. Not having a quill always worries me when I'm drilling these small drill holes in this thing, because I've got to use the Z-axis handle to wind it down. I want to screw this first one in place so that the others can't move. Alrighty, I think you've seen enough of that, so I'll bring you back when I get these into the lathe to bore them out. A little bit tight, but I'd like to leave it that way so that it acts more like a seal. Alrighty, I'll flip that around, do the other end. Alrighty, so this is the front end where we've got this groove that I want to sit in, and I've got only about 0.05 smaller than what that groove is. But whether we can get this in here or not's another story. Probably bloody not. No. So it looks like that's a bit of a pipe dream. It's a bit too stiff to get that in there. See if we'll get it in there now. Oh yeah, can do. Alrighty, so I'll get it out of there, and so I can push it all the way in, because I won't get it all the way in now. And see how well it all fits up. Alrighty, so I'll put a bit of whey oil in there, and kind of feels a little stiff, but it'll have a handle on it to turn it with. You don't want it spinning like a bloody top, I suppose, so that might bed in eventually. Anyway, that's not too bad, turns alright. Alrighty, so that's the setting pin. Awful looking knurl, but I'd like to blue this thing, so if you've got a really dirty pig, oh, that's, might put that back in, take a bit more off. I want to blue it, and if you've got a really deep knurl, it's hard to blue it. Alrighty, so it's about time I started turning all these individual lumps of metal into one big lump of metal. Alrighty, so I don't want to put too much heat into that in one go, so alrighty, I've had a hell of a time trying to find some body putty, some bog, and in the end I had to buy some online. This stuff here is more a scratch filler than a bog. It said it was fast drying, and they weren't wrong. It was drying almost as quick as I could get it on there. And it said it was only good for like things a millimetre deep, but most of these weren't much deeper than that anyway. So while that's cooling off a bit, I'm going to go and sit down and sand all this down, and then I'll come back and weld that up some more. Yeah, my glove was getting almost unbearably hot towards the end of that. Don't you just love it when the slag just peels off when you're done like that? Gave this thing quite a liberal dose of anti-spatter before I started. It looks like didn't keep it all off, mostly off. Alrighty, so I reckon this is about to freak some of you out, but I don't have a welding table, so I'm going to use the mill. So I have this bolted to the mill, giving everything around the base here a liberal dose of anti-splatter. What I was about to say is, so I don't have a welding table, and I don't want this thing curling up on me, so I've bolted it to the mill table, which I think has enough mass about it to absorb some of the heat. But I'll do what I did before, just weld the ends, allow that to cool out, and then weld the sides. I meant to show you these welds in here before I did that. They came up really nicely and took very little cleaning up. I was pretty happy with them. Okay, well, it's iced coffee o'clock. I'm going to head off down the road and grab one of them, allow that to cool out considerably, and then I'll weld the front, maybe unbolt it, turn around and weld the back. I'll weld the front, let it cool, then turn it around and weld the back. Alrighty, so I didn't bother recording or welding. I thought you'd seen enough of that. It occurred to me when I was doing a bit of editing that I didn't actually show you what I'd set up here. So I used these two bits of fibre cement board to protect the immediate bed, and then I put the head down on a bit of timber to hold all this down in place while I weld it. Despite my best efforts to stop this thing from curling up like a banana, it did when I welded the other side, so I don't know. I don't know whether to try and get that out of it or not. Anyway, soldier on. Alrighty, when I said this thing curled up like a banana, I wasn't kidding. Have a look at this. And it's got about, from one end to the other, 2mm bow in it. That's part of somewhere between 1.5 mil and 2 mil. So anyway, I'm going to clamp it up in there like that. And I didn't tell you, I fly cut the other side originally to clean it up. So I don't know that I want to try and fly cut 1.5 mil off that. So I might run a roughing cutter just through the centre here, remove the worst of it, where it won't flex too much, and then fly cut the rest of it, try and flatten that out, because I can't leave it like that. Alrighty, so that's roughly in the centre. I can't get all the way across, so I've measured in 40mm from each edge. Around 40. And again, around 40. So I'll have to concede that that's now about as parallel as I'm going to get it. Alrighty, it is No Noise Sunday, but as I mentioned in another part of this series, if my wife's not here, I get away with a bit more. You might be able to hear the angle grinder running down the road and stuff then. Anyway, I made 12 passes across here, couldn't quite get far enough over to finish this pass, but I've touched it off there. I took 0.5 millimetre off, and the 4 or so through the centre here was making this thing sing, but mainly because I think the head was up so high, it was making the whole everything vibrate, including the splash guards. But anyway, so I've touched off here and then touched off here. There's only 0.1 between there and there, so I'm going to take 0.1 cut all down to here. Hopefully that'll clean it up and we'll be done with this. Well, there was obviously a bit of springiness in that because it cut on the way back, and it hasn't been doing that lately. I could probably get away with it, I can feel that, because where it clamps here is cut. But anyway, I'll cut this up side of it and we'll see what it looks like. I've got to lift this up out of there so I can get across far enough. Well, that took a whole lot longer than I would have liked. I had a stuff up in there, and I had to change the 0.48 tip because the 0.2 just bit in and took a big gouge out here, so I had to make a lot more passes in the end than I wanted to. But anyway, considering the lack of rigidity in this and the fact the head is way up high on the tower, which makes it less rigid, I'm relatively happy with the outcome. But is it flat? Yes, it is. So happy with that. Alrighty, I'll get on with it. Oh, I had something arrive while I was doing that. I've been chasing a single cut file for so long, and I just wasn't able to find one. I stumbled across one yesterday, 2 days ago. So I ordered it, and it is nice and sharp, and it cuts beautifully. Wonderbar. At this point in the video, I'd like to thank my patrons for the continued support. It's greatly appreciated. If you'd like to become a patron, there's a link down in the description. You can sign up down there and toss me a couple of dollars every month. If you don't want to become a patron, there's always Buy Me a Coffee, and there's a QR code on the screen there. You can scan that, or there's always that thanks button down there. Alright, I had to cut all the text out of the end of that bit because of all the wind noise. How I did that was I used this bit I made up to as a centre to use on the rotary table, and just weld a bit of bar on it, drill a hole here which lined up with the holes in the indexing plate, and then machined a slot in here which accepts one number stamp and two little bits of thin strip which fit in there to take the gap up, and then you can move it either side. So if you've got three numbers, it's 1, 2, 3 by moving that one across to there. So that's how we did that. Alrighty, so I got this welded on today, and stamping that took bloody forever. I don't know how well you can see that. Kind of stuffed up the first time. The very first number I stamped, this number 1. I forgot to clamp the thing up hard against the back of this, and it was too close to the edge, and I re-stamped it. I probably should have left it alone. And then I stamped the 20 as a 10, so I had to re-stamp it. And then the 4 there, I forgot to clamp it again. Got up all the way up to I think it was 200 before I stuffed up again. And then I went 200 twice. Had to stamp 1 over the 0. I think that was about it then. Didn't stuff up again. But anyway, that's bloody how it is. You may have noticed I had a pin in it while I was stamping it, and that was to stop it from collapsing the hole, because the hole's pretty close to the edge. And then even then, once I had to put a reamer back through the hole, because I couldn't get to knock the pin out and then ream the hole out. But anyway, we're getting there. It's very close to being finished now. While you weren't looking, I drilled and tapped a hole in there. And something else I've done while you weren't looking. Just drill and tap. I drill 3 holes in here to fit this up. That bolts onto there. We're nearly there. Well, viewers, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, there it is, in all its sparkling black glory. I've done a couple of kind of unusual things with this. I went through and I put some black touch-up paint in these numbers and then sanded it all off, masked it up, painted that, and then put a coat of clear lacquer on that. This thing, I actually blued that this morning, including all of this, to get some black down into the numbers, and then I sprayed that with some lacquer, clear lacquer again, with the exception of down inside where it runs on that piece of Teflon. I masked that up so it wouldn't have any lacquer on it. Then I oiled it before I assembled it. But there it is, and this thing's worked out okay in the end. That dot there is the mark for 0 or whatever. It's not exactly in the centre of this, it's just slightly off to one side. I guess we can live with that. Now, it's pretty much finished except for one thing. Oh, actually no, before we go there, I said I'd explain this bloody thing right at the beginning of part 1. Well, this is one of those not what I thought it was kind of purchases, and I was going to use that to help me mark all this out, because the inner ring here is 36 and I think it was 40 and then 48 or something around the outside, but I just changed my mind, didn't use it. Now, back to the one thing that's not there. There's nothing in this hole here. I made that a couple of weekends ago on a no-noise Sunday, but it's not finished. I want to put some scallops around the edge of it. I'm going to use this thing to do it. So follow me over to the mill and we'll do that over there. Alrighty, so I'm going to do this with a carbide router bit, so meant for timber, right? But if you didn't see where I made these, I used a carbide router bit to make these. And I did wear one out and had to go buy another one, but that was a lot of steel and to make 2 of them plus the 2 bits to go across. Anyway, I might have to buy myself a 6 to 7 collet. I think I'm going to keep using things like this because it's bloody 1/4 inch and doesn't fit in a 6mm collet all that easily. Alrighty, let's get that stuff out of the way. This was just another one of those Giant Tech products. We call it a cove box bit, whatever. I'm calling it a ball-nosed end mill. Actually, every time we go to buy ball-nosed end mills, I look at the price and just nearly die of fright. So I've centered this thing this way. And get this over and just try and touch it off on the top. Piece of a bill, or a receipt rather. I keep telling my wife that's not a bill, that's a receipt. That'll do. Zero that out. I don't know how deep to go with these things, and I don't know how well it's going to cut, but I would think it'll cut this brass pretty easily. Just dawned on me that you probably can't see that very well, so I'll move the camera. That's 1 mil, and I don't think it's anywhere near enough, so let's try 1.5 mil. I reckon that might do it. Alrighty, let's move around. That was on 60 degrees. Let's move around to 120 degrees. Do the next one. Alrighty, I'll get that out of there and deburr it, and I'll see you back at the bench to wrap this up. Well viewers, there it is, all done, finished. I think that little bit of brass just finishes it right off, don't you? I do. Anyway, right at the beginning I said people probably asking why don't you just make one yourself. Well, the price of that was from memory about 3,700 baht, so 3,700 and something baht by the time we factor in some shitty exchange rates and all sorts of things. I reckon this has cost me no more than about 700 baht, so I've saved about 3,000 baht to do this myself. And it was a challenge, but hey, the reason this channel exists is because I like making things. But anyway, if you enjoyed watching me make that, make sure you give it a great big thumbs up, smash that like button, and thanks again to John for the inspiration to have a crack at making this thing. It's come out pretty good. This worked out pretty well in the end. In fact, I've got a 0 here and a 0 here, just like he said, but like I mentioned before, that centre mark here is not quite dead centre of the hole. This thing didn't quite work out as well as I would have liked, but I reckon if it was spot on, it would be the way to go as far as marking these things out. But there it is, and it's done. So hopefully I can get some use out of that. Next video, I've got something completely different. There'll be no machines, no tools to make tools, no tools for machines. It'll be something just for fun and just something to do. It is machining, but it's just a bit of fun. So I'll see you all next week for that. Bye bye.